like we do with all of our Women Who Code events. So today's agenda, we will be welcoming you from Women Who Code. Here we are, welcome you now. And that I will go through some of our welcome slides as OBryan, and then we will move on to our brainstorming conference talk ideas. Again, if you're just joining us, be sure to change the drop down in your chat window in Zoom from panelist and host to everyone, so that everyone can participate in our conversation and see the questions you're asking and the answers that we're giving throughout the presentation. Here at Women Who Code, our mission is inspiring women to excel in technology careers, and our vision is a world where diverse women are better represented as engineers and tech leaders. All of our events adhere to the Women Who Code Code of Conduct. Women Who Code is an inclusive community dedicated to providing an empowering experience for everyone who participates in or supports our community, regardless of gender, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, ability, physical appearance, body size, race, ethnicity, age, religion, socioeconomic status, caste, creed, political affiliation, or preferred programming languages. You can find our full version and access our incident report form online at womenwhocode.com/code of conduct. Also, given recent world events, we wanted to call out that Women Who Code condemns the aggression by the Russian government on the free and independent nation of Ukraine. And you can read our full commitment also online on our blog, womenwhocode.com/blog/womenwhocode stands with the Ukrainian people. And so with that, we wanted to move into some important dates and also give Anna a chance to speak here as well. So this particular series is our CFP speaker series to kind of help you prepare for submitting your CFP. And so this is for our summer conference, Connect Recharge 2022, which will be happening on May 26, 2022. And the deadline to speak is going to be April 25th. We do recommend that you apply earlier rather than later. But the CFP will stay open all the way until April, so you have plenty of time to work on your proposals. And we also wanted to call out that this is going to be the first of 3 of our speaker series. So today is going to be coming up with your idea and crafting that part of your expertise into a topic that you can submit to that CFP. And then our next event is going to be working on actually writing your CFP, and then we'll have some time. Our final event will be reviewing the CFPs before you submit them. And with that, I want to throw it over to Anna to talk a little bit about the speaker cohort program.
Thank you so much, Sierra, and thank you for all of the panelists and speakers today who have invited me on. And I just want to, I see a question in the chat that I'm just going to answer. Oh, Jiaqi already did it. That CFP is call for proposals, so an application for a conference. So my name is Anna, and I am a team member at Women Who Code headquarters, and we are in conjunction with these amazing webinars. We are running a digital only, so Slack and email only, first-time speakers cohort. So the idea is that if you are a first-time speaker, the best thing that you can do is go to these webinars, but then the next thing you can do after that is sign up and join our small community, which will be mostly a private Slack group. So it's a place for you to post your ideas, get feedback. I'm the moderator, but we'll also have volunteers that will respond to any questions you have, but also pump you up if you're feeling nervous about speaking, nervous about your slides, any of those things. So we'll run from March until after Connect. So even if this webinar is about Connect, but every single application you do is a learning experience. So as you go through it, that's what the speaker cohort is for. So I'm going to put the link in the chat, but you can also post any questions in the chat about that. But the idea is that it's a low barrier to entry, maybe 30 minutes to an hour a week of extra time, but a community to help you through it. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, for joining us and sharing that program. We definitely recommend anyone who wants that extra support to apply for that program. We think it's going to be so fantastic and a great additional support system in addition to these few webinars that we're also running. So with that, we wanted to get into a couple of our CFP FAQs, so our frequently asked questions, just go over some high-level information about the Connect conferences and the CFP process before we dive into some workshopping on your idea for your talk. So the first frequently asked question is going to be, is there a required competency to be a speaker? Do I need to be a CTO, have a specific career title or certain degree, etc.? And so the answer for this is, of course, no. We welcome first-time speakers. We welcome you regardless of what tech stack you're working on. And we also have a career navigation track at this Connect as well. So no, you do not need to be any of those things. In our opinion, everyone has some knowledge to share, and we absolutely encourage you to come to Connect, submit that talk, and share it with our community. The next question is going to be, what should I present on? And so you can present on core technologies and a solution, a work project and its challenges, a project that you created for fun, etc. You can also find some inspiration from our past talks on our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel that that hosts many of our events from around the world and from our track events as well. And so that's a really great place to see talks that were accepted in the past and might have opportunities for you to build on those topics or find a related topic that might also be of interest to our community. And of course, you're here, and so we can help guide you on that talk idea through this workshop today as well. So what technical categories are we accepting talks on? A long list, of course: accessibility, architecture, backend, blockchain, career navigation, cloud, cybersecurity, data science, front-end, inclusive team, machine learning, and AI, mobile products, Python, UX and UI, web development, and we welcome things that might not fit into one of these topics specifically or might fit into multiple of those topics as well. We do have an other category to kind of catch those other ideas that we might not specifically have thought of when we were putting together our categories, but it could be really interesting for all of our community. Additionally, if you're not thinking about some of those technical tracks, we also do have the career navigation track. And so we have some career focused categories that we also accept talks on. And so some examples of that is applying for a job. You can think about some subcategories with that, with finding the right role, resumes, and profiles. We accept talks on interviewing, so those soft skills and best practices, technical interviews, preparing for algorithms, technical tips, salary negotiation, career path, subcategories again being things like moving up the ladder, how to move beyond that entry-level role, leadership, CTO and engineering management, changing careers to tech, in non-traditional pathways into technology, returning after a career break, managing a team, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and again, just like catch all for those topics that maybe we didn't think of, but could be really relevant to our community as well. And then our last set of frequently asked questions, although again, you are more than welcome to ask any others in the chat, and we will try to either give you those answers today or find an answer as well, is, can I submit a talk with another speaker? Absolutely. We accept joint talks and just ask that each speaker individually apply. And in your application, you should use the same talk title and description, and just note that you have a co-speaker. A couple of years ago, I did this, and it was a really fun experience. And I really recommend doing a joint talk, either if you're a senior developer who hasn't done it before, because I think it gives you really different experience than writing a talk by yourself from start to finish, is kind of learning how to do that process with someone else. And if you're a first-time speaker, pairing up with a more experienced speaker can give you kind of that edge to get started and give you that built-in motivation and a team member to pump you up and get you through that application and help you figure out what that process looks like as well. So if that's something you're interested in, again, we really encourage that additionally. The next question, I'm located in a different time zone. Will I be able to participate? And although the official programming and schedule isn't determined yet, we accept talks and speakers located all over the world in various time zones. When we create our programming for an event, we try to represent as many diverse speakers as possible. At our previous Connect conference, we reached an audience in 91 countries. So no geographic barriers to try to apply. We welcome your talk regardless of what time zone you're in. And last question, does Women Who Code have resources for writing a CFP? Yes, so all of our resources from past CFP series are available online, womenwhocode.com/CFP-resources. And of course, you're already in the first of this year's CFP speaker series. So we hope to see you at the next ones as well to take this talk from idea to submission. And so with that, moving on to our workshop portion of finding a talk you are excited about, and over to Jiaqi.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jiaqi. I'm really excited to sort of share more specifically about this upcoming conference, but also help you brainstorm ideas that you might want to submit. Sarah, do you want me to share the slides, or do you want to click through?
Either way, whatever's easiest for you.
Okay. Okay. Can we go to the next slide? I don't think I can share, but we can click through. Cool. So for the conference coming up, Connect Recharge, we are accepting talk formats with these 4 different talk formats. So you can have a lightning talk, which is roughly 15 minutes, a technical talk, which is roughly 35 minutes, a career session, also 35 minutes, but maybe geared towards different topics, and a workshop of 50 minutes with Q&A. So think about what kind of topics are suitable for each format. Sierra, we can go to the next slide. On why you should be a speaker. So expanding your reach of your contact and being able to share your knowledge with our community and inspiring others to excel in their technical careers. We are also giving a $100 honorarium as a thank you for your time and your expertise. And speaking publicly does help you build your own brand and market your profile across different platforms and social media. It's also a great practice in a very safe and welcoming environment on public speaking and making connections with other technologists. Next slide. Okay, so for a lot of people who are maybe new to speaking or even writing in general, there's different styles of topics or different ways you can format a talk. You can have a technical case study, which could draw from your past experience and tells the narrative of, what is the problem, what are approaches or technical solutions you considered, how did you implement it, what was the conclusion, what are lessons learned, and any kind of reflection. So that's a pretty common format for a talk or even a blog post, is a narrative from beginning to end. There are also technical deep dives, which just goes deeper into a technical concept or implementation detail. And it is your opportunity to have an opinion or take a stand on a particular technical idea or philosophy. I definitely recommend in talks or blog posts to have a call to action to the community or have a firm stance on what your recommendation is, because I do think that makes it more actionable. But of course, it's fair not to get too into the weeds of controversial technical topics as well. Leadership and career, insights on leadership development skills, career growth, job searching, growing within your company and things like that. Those are always really interesting because different people have different perspectives. In the tutorial, I think this falls along the workshop category that we have this year, is sort of teaching the audience how to do something, whether it's using a new tool or technology or a technique. These tend to be a little bit longer because you might want to have time for the audience to implement something or finish a task independently, but can be really compelling as well. I think a good example of this is actually the series that Princiya and Sunita have been working on for deploying your app to the cloud, that has a very actionable follow-along tutorial aspect of it. Cool. I'm going to go over a couple of example abstracts of different types of talks. Sierra, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so this is a leadership or career talk, and the topic is on negotiation. And this is sort of an example abstract. In this session, we're not writing, we're mostly just trying to brainstorm an idea, but it's also good to keep in mind what you will eventually have to write, which is likely an abstract like this, which is short and pithy and to the point on what the audience will take away from this experience. So this is one example. I can read it out loud. Technical folks often don't negotiate. When we do, we often undersell ourselves. Over the course of our careers, missed opportunities to ask for more financially can add up to substantial loss. In this talk, I'll go over best practices for negotiating, highlight some key issues for women and underrepresented minorities, and address how to prepare for different types of negotiations. And so very clear on the topic, very clear on what specific information the talk will cover and what are actionable kind of tasks for the audience. Sarah, the next example is more technical. Do you mind moving to the next slide? Awesome. So this is more of an example of a technical deep dive, or it can also be a case study, designing a command line tool. And this is more of a technical talk on how to use popular Go libraries and how you structure your Go code to improve usability and testability and publish command line tools. So it's got a specific technical component, which is, how do you design a command line tool? But it also has other components that you can extract. Even if you're not building even if you're not building a command line tool, this talk will help you sort of understand how do you write code that is easy to use and easy to reuse, and how do you write code that you can test easier, and design principles that could be applicable. So that's kind of what I like about these technical topics, is that it has applications beyond the specific use case the speaker might be presenting. All right, Sarah, we can go to the next slide, and this actually brings us to the workshop portion. Spend this time, the next 5 minutes, to write down as many talk topics as you have in mind. Feel free to share that in the chat if you have any. Use these prompts to guide you, but you certainly don't need to use these prompts. They're just a way to help inspire you on coming up with the talk topic, which might end up being your title for your talk. But yeah, don't think too hard about them. We will filter for topics later. Just let's spend 5 minutes on coming up with as many talk topics that you could be interested in giving. Yeah, we used to have 3 more minutes to brainstorm ideas, but I already see some really great ones in the chat. So I'm going to read them out loud. 5 things I've learned as a leader, leading engineers, do's and don'ts from Sierra, lessons learned from breaking production for the first time. 3 things I've learned working with Bluetooth Android, how to get started with accessibility on Android, moving from a full-time engineer to people management, finding the balance between bugs and features, EDA using data science. Yeah, I'd be curious to know what EDA is if you want to put that in the chat. Oh, exploratory data analysis using Python. That's awesome. I had some of mine, how to build observability into data pipelines, 3 things I've learned in designing data systems, what does growth mean as a frontline manager. Stephanie says, we'll love to see more accessibility talks. Finding the balance between full-time job and community work, data science lifecycle, tutorials on getting started with log aggregation, Kibana, lessons learned from using a vendor's test automation tool, how to pitch accessibility to your company, hint, generate interest and excitement at the bottom first. From Princiya, how to set up a design system. Oh, that's a useful one. Becoming a leader when you're shy and insecure. Yeah, is there anyone experiencing any mental blocks, any challenges with this particular exercise? Feel free to put it in the chat. Yeah, what are you struggling most with? What is, what's sort of the mental block or challenges with some of these kind of exercises around coming up with ideas on the spot? Yeah, for sure. Not feeling like I've had enough experience or in depth to talk about a topic is definitely a huge part. Like a huge blocker for a lot of people to submitting an abstract. I think one thing I've learned is that you would be like surprised how your like unique perspective and experience is like helpful for people. Like one thing that I realize is like there's a lot of talks and content out there, but different people learn in different ways, and sometimes like your perspective is what helps someone who hasn't been able to learn from the existing content learn. So it doesn't always have to be something you have a lot of in-depth knowledge in. It could just be like, hey, I've touched on this and this is what I realized and what I've learned from that experience. Sierra, I know you probably have something to add here too.
Yeah, I was just saying in the chat that I think even talking about the experience of being kind of a generalist in tech can be really valuable to people. I think that there's sometimes a lot of pressure to become very focused in one single area of tech. I know that I fall in that category where I have very deep technical knowledge of Android, but very minimal knowledge of much outside of the mobile space. And so just kind of talking about why it's okay to be a generalist, like how that has helped you grow your career as a generalist, what kind of value having generalists on your team can add to that overall team structure. I think that's a really interesting talk that can remind people that, being a jack of all trades is its own valuable skill set that we don't always talk about especially when we're looking at these very strict categories that can feel very boxed in, that you do need to go down a specific in-depth topic. But I think that in itself can be a really valuable topic to people.
Cool. Okay, I think we have some questions about, yes, if you can submit the same talk adjusted to workshop or lightning length. Anna, I don't know if you have any insights on that and would be able to answer that question.
Great question. That's an interesting question. I mean, it won't necessarily for this conference, it won't, the way that it gets reviewed, it won't necessarily help you or hurt you. I would definitely think that, I guess I would pass it back. I know I saw some questions about from Navati thinking well, which one is better, which length is better. And I think drilling on which format has really good takeaways would be my advice. So yes, there's nothing that will stop you from submitting it more than once, but it won't necessarily help, won't necessarily hurt you. And I'll plug my, the first time speaker cohort is just another kind of community. So I would plug, maybe you don't identify as a first time speaker, but plug reaching out to the Women Who Code communities that you are a part of, as long as they're not on the review committee for our conference, to see, test and see what people's reactions are. I think getting community feedback is always helpful. Yeah.
I think on the topic of lightning talks versus full length talks, some of that also can come down to what kind of talks you've already given or not given. So if it's your first talk, it might make a lot of sense to kind of lean into just a lightning talk so that you're only committing to 15 minutes of content. But also if you've given a lot of full length talks, I think that it can actually sometimes be a challenge for yourself to say, okay, I want to provide value in just 15 minutes. I want to take some talk and really boil it down to just the high level points so that you can learn something new in 15 minutes. Sometimes as a speaker, I find that really difficult to take a full length talk and say, here are the main takeaways, and I can pull out all of this extra information and still provide a lot of value to my audience. And so if you've given that talk before at full length, maybe think about submitting it as a lightning talk and just pulling out those high level points and challenging yourself in that way as well.
To answer what Manda asked, would it also come down to whether or not you plan to have a hands-on component? Yeah, so I just asked do you mean hands-on as workshop? So this actually depends with the type of conference. Apart from Women Who Code, so some conferences specifically look for hands-on kind of sessions. So there, it might make more sense. So with Women Who Code, do we have a track where we have where do we have a workshop or a live coding part, or are we more of having these 30 minutes pre-recorded sessions? Ciara or Jiaqi?
I was going to see, I know Stephanie is in our audience as well, and she's on the CFP committee. Stephanie or Anna, are we accepting workshops this time? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do think that if you want the audience to do something during the talk, that would be a good fit for a workshop. Cool. We can actually move on to the next slide. Now that you've probably come up with some ideas, you might want to be selective about which ideas you pursue, because it is actually quite a lot of work to even write the top proposal, but and once you're accepted, crafting the talk itself is quite a big of a time investment. Ciara, can we go to the next slide? Okay, thank you. Yep, so choosing the topic, things to consider. How excited are you about this topic? Because you probably have to do research or put together a lot of content for the talk. So it has to be something that you feel like is worth your time to invest in. How does it add to your brand? How does it help you? Are you, currently in this field, and it'll add to your credibility in the field that you're in? Is this the field that you want to enter, and therefore will add credibility to your future job hunt? So think about how it benefits you too, because again, like you're probably going to be putting a lot of time in writing this talk. So really have to like, you know, have something that you can feel really proud of, but also benefit you career-wise. What prior knowledge or experience do you personally have? And that's really a reflection of like how much research would it take for you to feel comfortable delivering a talk. Sometimes if it's a topic that I know that I will have to do a lot of research on and that I might not have time to do all that research, I kind of put it in a parking lot and save it for later because this is still a topic I'm interested in, but might be a lot more work than something that I'm already super familiar with. So that's something to consider too. And then how relevant is it for your audience? What's the message that you have for your audience and how does it apply? I think for our community, any of the technical talks and the career talks are always like very relevant, but sort of understanding who your target audience is also helpful for framing the context of your narrative. So something that I found helpful is if you have multiple topics, sort of rank them in terms of, how much effort would it take for you to complete this talk, which would be based on prior knowledge and experience. Is it a good fit for the audience? And then how excited are you about it? So take a moment to maybe think about that. And if you would like more feedback on topics, or whether it's a workshop or lightning talk or technical talk, feel free to drop in the chat so we can provide feedback. Stephanie also mentioned that I've seen both technical talks and workshops with hands-on coding. It really depends on how in-depth you plan to get in your topic, and that's certainly true. You can have a technical talk with live coding and demos and things that people can follow along to. It's just a matter of like how that fits in with the talk, how that fits in timing wise. I guess to help frame this a little bit better, Anna or Stephanie, how would you describe the audience of the Connect Recharge conference?
So I was about to type this, but so thank you, Jiaqi. So many different people. So I think that it's a match for a lot of different kinds of talks. Our average member has like 2 or more years experience, so you can keep that in mind. But I think, and everyone on the panel can agree with this, we're all about like the learning mindset, and like no one can know everything, and so you do need to make it like accessible just in case and someone's not in your exact niche. But like I definitely tell people like that yeah, you just can't know everything. So there's gonna be people that find something new and exciting no matter what you're talking about.
Awesome.
While we're here, I also want to call out that in our Q&A, a question was submitted if one submits a talk later, still within the deadline range versus if you submitted it today, would that submission have fewer chances of being chosen? Do talks get selected on a somewhat first come, first served basis? So I did want to share that our talks are accepted on a rolling basis. I think we have 3 rounds of speaker invites that go out throughout the window of submitting 4, sorry, Stephanie, correct. Thank you, Stephanie. There are 4 rounds of speaker invites that will go out throughout that submission window. But I do want to share that we have reviewers that are engaged throughout the entire window of that submission. So talks, if you submit it on the last day, will get full consideration. And will absolutely be considered to be pulled into Connect, but there is that several spots have already been given out to speakers by the end of the window, so there will be fewer spots available. We have a question in the chat that I do not know the answer to, which is what is our acceptance rate, the average number of submissions we get versus how many we accept. And I do not have that data.
Yeah, I think given we don't really have the data on acceptance rate, my recommendation would just be to submit early if possible, because it does seem like that does help your chances of getting accepted, since we are accepting talks on a rolling basis. Yeah, if there's any other questions, does anyone have topics they want feedback on?
So we do just have some time now that if you want to throw your idea out into the chat, now that we came up with our list of mini ideas, any that are really sticking with you that we as a panelist can help with, or you can get feedback from our community and everyone else on the call of things they'd really like to hear about versus things that topics that might need some tweaking. That's kind of how we would like to spend the rest of the time, is just providing our own expertise here to help you pick your topic. A question from Esther. Perhaps you mentioned this before. If you want to use your employer's PowerPoint presentation, you need to find out company policy and see if you need to ask permission first. Yes, that is definitely going to vary by company. And I know some companies also, you will need approval to give talks outside the company. I have worked for a company where you had to get written permission before you could give a talk and submit those slides ahead of time. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind, depending on your company, is making sure that you're also following your company's guidelines when you're engaging in our CFP and conference process. I do think that when after you get accepted, WWCode does provide some of our own template slides. Again, not required by any means that you have to use those. You're more than welcome to make your own slide deck that matches your own presentation theme and what works best for that. But we also have a lot of speaker resources that we provide after you have been accepted as a speaker as well, to help you get started down that path of writing your actual talk as well. A question that in the chat is, what are the timelines for the 4 speaker announcements? I think that I can probably find those dates fairly quickly. Or someone else has them quicker than I do. Ooh, Anna's typing. I'm hoping that means she has them at hand, because I'm scrolling through Slack.
Well, and searching for that, our next event is on March 17th, and it's on writing your talk proposal. So if you do have, an idea coming out in the session and want to write it at the next session, that's the date for the event to keep in mind. Okay, it looks like Anna's answered the next. Oh, so the timeline for the announcements will be, the next one will be March 14th, and then spaced out through April. Last call for questions. Cool. Sarah, I'll hand it back to you to close out. Actually, we have a question in the Q&A. Can we submit multiple talks? Is that allowed, Anna?
Big thumbs up for me, Anna. I do want to call out that if you will not know that your talk has not been selected until that deadline closes. It might not get selected in the first round, but that doesn't mean that it won't get selected in the next round of speaker selections. But you're still more than welcome to submit as many as you want and feel comfortable submitting. But you won't know until the very end whether all of those talks got selected or none of those talks got selected. And so with that, if you are still thinking about ideas, weren't ready to share them here in the chat today, put on the spot by us, totally fine. You can join any of our Women Who Code track communities. And there's a great community of people in those Slacks that can also help you kind of formulate this idea. So feel free to join any of our communities. You can find all of our tracks, womenwhocode.com/tracks, and how to join the Slacks and follow us on our different platforms. And we, of course, encourage you to engage with us there. If you want to message any of us and share your ideas, we're all going to be happy to provide any kind of feedback on those in between now and our next event as well. And so finally, just thank you for all of you for joining us today to start thinking about your topic. We cannot wait to see your final submission and see how it grows throughout this CFP speaker series. And we will see you all at the next one. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.